You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 FM and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in very, very wet and beautiful Northport, Florida. If you're out on the roads today, please slow it down. Take your time. There's no reason to go to the hospital because you're trying to do 90 on wet pavement. Slow it down. Keep it under 80. Really 70 with some caution would be great. But we know people are out there trying to make time, even when you should slow it down. Please keep other people in mind because they want to enjoy their weekend upright versus vertical in the hospital. So behave yourself out there on the roads. I hope that I'm stressing this loud enough. Vanessa, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, because I'm usually the one on those roads, so I'll listen.
Well, and we all like to do 90 on 75, but it's a little different when you get some rain going and you got that oil out there. So just relax and take your time. It's Friday night. Adult beverages, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. For a long while, it's Friday night, so you can get an adult beverage as you keep traveling safely. So I've got Vanessa Carusone in the house, and I'm very excited to start this because we had a really great show with Peter Bartolotta the other day, and Mr. Bill English chimed in, and we made a really special offer to him. And we're going to meet this upcoming week and talk about having Bill English on the show with Peter Bartolotta so we can have a little bit of a debate discussion on some topics. And I'm looking forward to that. And Mr. English is already chiming in, which is awesome. Love to see him out there. He's one of my favorite people that I've never met before because he's been an avid follower of the show. So kudos to him. And Vanessa, I just thought I'd let you know that because it's really cool to start having citizens engage in all these topics that we're talking about, and that was really the purpose for you joining in, right? And being
absolutely. Yeah, I think that the more citizens involved in their government, the more informed, more educated that everyone will become. Chuck is awesome. I've known him for a very long time. We won't go by, years because it's been a long time. Chuck's been a very intricate part of the environmental, saving of the city of Northport. And he's been one of the biggest cheerleaders. So I think it'll be very interesting to learn some of the things that he knows just from his institutional knowledge. I did watch the show with Peter. There were some inaccuracies, but I'm sure it depends on where he got his information from. But, I think that it is going to be a really good show between him and Peter because I think Peter's going to learn a lot. I really do. And I think that Chuck's going to understand, which he does, that just because you say that you want to do some sort of a environmentally friendly development to Warm Mineral Springs, it doesn't mean that you're going to be putting up bricks, mortar, and, creating large scale hotels like was talked about today. But it'll be an economic driver of sorts. So I think that they're both going to become very much informed as to different ways that particular area can be utilized.
Well,
and speaking of, we should probably talk about that meeting today, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. I was on a flight in, so you're going to really give me some insight into exactly what happened today. Go ahead and throw that out there and fire up the topic.
Okay, so today they had their conversation about Warm Mineral Springs and the the capital side of things, the capital improvement side of things, they're only talking about the first phase, which is essentially the expansion of the water and sewer, as well as the parking lot area. But most importantly is fixing the buildings, refurbishing the buildings. That comes to about $9 million. Now, what they did was they pretty much stole the money from different projects that have been on the books for quite some time, but some of them weren't going anywhere. So it's okay. So for example, what was it? I took notes too. The Springhaven Boulevard project, we had talked about acquiring all those lots that are over there that are residential, but the developer really has absolutely no desire to sell it, to sell it to the city, let alone sell it. So specifically at a price that the city would be willing to purchase it, because everybody's willing to sell, right?
Right. There's always a number on something.
Exactly. So we took that money off, or I don't say we, they took the money off, put it towards the project for War Mineral Springs. They also took money from the Myakkahatchee Creek corridor, which is pretty much a walking path that went from Price or Appomattox up to Price. And they took money away from Dallas White Park improvements and LeBray Park improvements, or the restrooms. And so what their idea is that they can utilize that capital funds that are already allocated, but in addition, they will take money from the park's impact fees, as well as whatever the balance is from the Atwater Park project phase 4. So you add all that money up, it'll come to $9 million so that they can hurry up and get out there for bid, because the bidding process in the government it's just crazy. It takes sometimes up to 6 months to a year to get before you even see a shovel in the ground. So
can you talk a little bit, because as much as we want to believe citizens are educated on processes, I know, and they're not. And you just said some really special words there, that nothing happens in a hurry.
Oh gosh, no.
Can you really explain the dilemma that they're in right now, even though they have earmarked money, and why it's going to take so long, and what happens during that process?
So according to the Florida state law, you have to go out for bid, request for bids on certain parts of this project. And remember that you're kind of divvying it up. You have the project that will include the restoration and refurbishment of the buildings. Then you'll have the parking lot. Then you'll have the water and sewer expansion. All three of those will be separated out because, of course, it's a unique process for each one of them. You can't have one person doing all of it. You need a specialty. All of that, you have to put it out to bid for X amount of days before you can actually get someone in to start the project. You have to engineer it. So that RFP is going to go out for engineering first. Specifically the utilities, unless it's already pre-engineered, it could be. Then after that, it'll close at a certain date. And then that's when the department or HR will review it. They'll get with the city manager, and then they will bring that suggestion back to the city commission, who then has to approve it, at which point they will allocate the funds and start the project. All of that, knowing that the commission only really meets twice a month. So yes, they have special meetings here and there like they did today, but for the most part, it's only twice a month. And guess what? August is coming. What happens in August? No meetings. So all of this is going to take an immense amount of time. And you're talking about three different processes. The actual buildings themselves, not COVID, promise. The buildings
You're
themselves.
by yourself anyway, honey. It's all
man,
good.
That's true, right? Allergies are killing us.
No doubt.
But the building industry, I'm hoping that because it takes so long to get through that process, might actually help us. Because right now, as you know, $30 for a piece of plywood is just bull.
Yep. It's even higher than that right now.
I mean, I'm not sure who has trees of gold, but apparently that's what our plywood is being made of. But I'm really hopeful that because it takes such a long time to get through that process, that by the time it actually gets there to the building portion, we may be able to save on that restoration project and what they believe it's going to cost. That's what happened with our teen center / the Morgan Center, is that we had planned it, we had budgeted for it, and it was during the absolute highest time, 06, and things were just out of control. But by the time it was built, which was 2010, if that gives you an idea, 2010, when it was built, we had saved almost $300,000. So they took that money and they used it for, the furnishings and some other miscellaneous stuff. Plus, they took some additional savings that they found after the fact, which was from help me out, they put a certain amount of money on the side, contingency fund. Each project has to have a contingency fund. And that contingency fund could be $20,000, $100,000, $1 million. It really depends on the project. And what that fund does is it sits there in case there's change orders, in case there's increase in the cost of doing that business. And so that comes out of the contingency fund. So when it was all said and done, the contingency fund money actually got to roll over into in 2010 the water park that we have, the aquatic center. So the money saved from the Morgan Center then turned around and went to prepping the land over there at the aquatic center, getting it all ready for water and sewer, getting it hooked up. I think some money went towards the Spring Haven intersection, so it would be widened, and it was all in preparation for the aquatic center. So that's where that savings went to.
Awesome. Well, and
so just real quickly, so what they decided on was to do that, to take the money from different spots and go ahead and get this ball rolling. None of those projects are going to be off the board. They are going to, they're still going to be allocated in the budget this year. It's just that they won't have any funding. However, what I did find interesting was that utilities director not utilities director, I guess she's the assistant director, Jennifer DeRocher. She had said that because this water and sewer is not only going to hook up to Warm Mineral Springs, it's going to go all the way down to Ortiz and hook up US 41 corridor, which they've been looking for water and sewer for a very long time. But those hookup fees are then going to reimburse the general fund for the money spent on this project. However, that money will go back to parks if that's where that money came from. So that is huge, because that means that there is a way of getting that money back.
Is that because it's already been allocated that they get it back?
Because they're the ones who are going to spend it.
Right.
So they'll get it back. The other thing is that, there's the questions, the whole, does it make money? It doesn't make money. I don't care which way you slice it, dice it. It doesn't make money. If
Right.
any business person is going to understand that there is a $5.5 million investment into that property to begin with, okay? There is an annual maintenance that needs to be accounted for. There are upgrades to that facility that were necessary, not that we did them because we thought we were kind. They were necessary, that did not come out of that Warren Mineral Springs money. I remember that we had to put lifeguard stands, chairs, and I'm fairly certain that came out of the general fund balance. So my point is that if you don't look at that cost analysis of the debt that you've already accumulated, and you're only looking at that rollover every year, which is about $250,000 to $500,000 a year, you're not really looking at true numbers. So now we're going to add to it, if there's a payback of this money, which I don't think they're ever going to pay back that money, but now we got to add the 9 million on it. And how do you say it's making money? It's not. So let's call a spade a spade. It's not going to make money unless you add an economic development driver. And thank God, Commissioner Langdon spoke up and had actually, here's the irony of the whole thing, mentioned everything we discussed back when we did the master plan. The amphitheater, which received positive feedback this time, but when we brought it up during the master plan, they nixed it and they did an open air theater. Creating some sort of a freestanding restaurant, creating some sort of a massage area. One of the things that the county and the city had combined interest in is creating some sort of little like mom and pop shops along the way and leasing the land. All discussed, all supported. We couldn't get support for it back in the day when we did the master plan. So I hope that Commissioner Langdon is listening and requests that the master plan be brought back for discussion and possible action, because you need to iron out what it is we're talking about. I think that there is a huge possibility to gain some sort of economic drivers there without hurting the city's environmental, or without creating this huge environmental impact in that particular area. They talked about having a huge, not huge, but having some sort of a museum. We talked about that as well. So there is so much potential for this particular piece of property. One of the things she did talk about, Commissioner Langdon, was having maybe botanical gardens there, but I'm not sure if she's aware of the fact that there is already a garden there. It's a shared garden that people grow vegetables, so on and so forth. And one of the items that we had discussed, because I had seen it at one of the League of Cities things, was that they were actually leasing space so that they could do their neighborhood garden. So if somebody wanted to, plant, I don't know, corn, well, they could lease that particular piece and they then could utilize it for their own gardening. But that really, they already have a neighborhood garden there. So they just weren't certain that how we could pull that off. So those are just some of the things that they talked about. So I'm just really, really happy to hear that the items that Commissioner Langdon brought up were supported this time, because they were brought up in the past. And I'm really looking forward to seeing if any of that comes to fruition, because the amphitheater went over like a lead balloon. So I'm just hoping that it can get some sort of support, because I'm telling you, between that, a museum, some sort of mom and pop shops, I mean, they can be 10 by 15 wooden structures that are on a platform that have walkways one to the other. That was the county and the city's ideas originally. All of it is a way to bring some sort of revenue stream into the property to offset the capital improvements. And I don't think people understand that portion of it, because I did hear a lot of people talk about, why are we looking to make money on it? That there's got to be some parts of nature that stay natural. And I guess, the bottom line is that the city's got to be run like a business, because let's face it, folks, who's going to pay for it if it doesn't support itself? We are. So
that's right.
You have to bring some sort of revenue into it, or else you're going to support it fully, 100%. And we have a $49,000 a month bill coming out of the coffers that are, well, it's $49,590 to be exact, coming out on a monthly basis from the profits of War Mineral Springs, just for the management company. Now, a couple of things that concern me is that a speaker did say that they've already been at max capacity, that within the last few months they had a lot of visitors. But then the sales point of all of this investment is that you can bring more visitors in, and I don't know how you're going to bring more visitors into the spring itself if you're already at max capacity. So I imagine the bringing more visitors in is for the amenities like the amphitheater, the carousel, which I got to go to when I was a kid. And
20 years ago. 20 years ago.
Yeah.
See how I did that? Well,
Yeah.
I got a quick question for you though, because I didn't want to age it right there. I did not want to age it because you said when you were a kid. I'm not going there with you. Here's the question I have though, because you talked about the master plan and bringing it back. One, did we pay for this master plan? And who paid for it? And why did we pay for it if we're still not using it? Because I'll let you take that and run with it for a minute.
So let's start with what a master plan is. The master plan, which we did pay for, which I'm fairly certain. Okay, the now you're asking too much, man. I don't remember.
Okay.
But the master plan money did come out of the fund balance money that was set aside for War Mineral Springs. So War Mineral Springs did pay for that. But understand that a master plan is really just a plan. You don't have to follow it to a T. You can amend it. You can move it around. You can morph it into what it is that you really want to see. And one of the speakers at the end of the day really did hit on something, because it seems like whenever the commission changes, so do the priorities. And this is the nature of the beast when you have term limits. And this is what happens, is that every 2 to 4 years, you're going to have a change in priorities. So, what he was saying, and I'm so sorry because I don't remember his name, but he was very articulate, and he he asked some really great questions, but the point is, if this plan continues to change, how are you going to get public-private partnerships involved? Because where's the guarantee that it's going to stick with that plan? And so he made an excellent point, and I think that between staff and the commission, they do have to figure that out. They are going to have to do maybe a principles of agreement for whatever it is with the public-private partnership, because the public-private partnership portion comes in the later phases. So when we're talking about that $9 million that was done today, and quite honestly, it was probably the most cordial way to do it because of what was being involved. Being the buildings that need to be revamped, and being it was the water and sewer and the parking lot only. Because of those portions, I think this was actually the best way to do it. Now, the rest of it, that's where we have that bigger discussion about the public-private partnerships, the economic drivers, the small footprint on the environment. People have to understand that the commission of the city and the county gathered together in 2009, and they said, how do we prevent from this spring being developed on? People always think that there's some sort of a overall overreaching prevention of developing on ecological, environmental, even historical areas. John Thaxton told me a long time ago, he says, no, Vanessa, it doesn't work that way in this state. You can mitigate anything. So the city and the county got together and said, listen, this is important. We want to keep these springs natural. And so that's why they got together and they created this, plan of not only preserving all of the historical landmarks that are in it, but to expand on it so that it would also have an economic impact to it, which included expansion of Ortiz into a 4-lane roadway, and some other ideas that were thrown around. So I guess I don't even know where I'm going with that, but that was $5.5 million. And so we wound up in 2014, just for those who don't know, in 2014, the commission at the time decided to break up that conversation and that partnership, and $2.7 million was given to the county to buy their portion out. I heard over and over again, this is sales tax money. That 2.75 was sales tax money, but it was allocated at that time for Price Boulevard widening, or at least 2 million of it was taken from Price Boulevard to purchase the county side of War Mineral Springs. How important was that? So, anyways, back to the master plan. It's a guide. It can change. It can fluctuate. There is no true, this is the way we want to do it. If a public-private partnership came in tomorrow and said, look, we want to put up a daycare, there's got to be a way to discuss that and then adjust the master plan. I mean, look at West Village District pattern plan. They actually, have amended their pattern book. I don't know how many times, because again, it's a plan. Plans can be changed.
And I'm glad you're saying that. And Mr. English just put up there too. Can you put that back up? But you've got to want to. I was sitting here thinking the same thing that he just typed. And if you listeners out there have questions or thoughts like Mr. English does, and he frequently will type these out, we will read them back, and we really are appreciative of the involvement that people can have. It's okay, Vanessa. There's no waiting on price when school is out. Well, that was Mr. Emmerich. You're correct, or Commissioner Emmerich. But there is waiting on that road when the trash is going.
Listen, I know that there was a major accident there just recently, and EMS had a heck of a time trying to get to it. So, I think
tough on that road.
Price Boulevard is absolutely a priority. I disagree with Commissioner McDowell when she says that she doesn't believe that it should be widened. I think it's a life safety issue, honestly. Because the EMS fire department, they cannot get down that road at certain times of the day. So,
well, and I got to tell you, the assessment from just on a realtor side of things, as much as I travel the roads throughout the day, going back and forth, listen, it's not needed. It's mandatory at this point. We're 70,000 plus now. We're not at 15,000 anymore. We're not going backwards on our population. Things are absolutely driven by safety within our community. And really, I don't know why this isn't a hotter topic, because there's more people that want Price Boulevard widened than that want it to not be widened. And I'm sorry if you live on Price Boulevard, but I can't even think about how many cities now that I've been to, that I've driven by, and when it says Boulevard, I never think of Price. I always think of 4 lanes. And our city has been set up from the start. Softening it, we do our best to soften things here. But the one thing I think you'll agree, because you were part of the Sumter move and how that got softened. That was 2 lanes. Imagine Sumter right now not widened. Are you kidding me?
How about Toledo Blade?
What about Toledo Blade? That's another
Same
one.
Thing. I was part of that.
Same exact thing. Change hurts. Change doesn't ever feel good. When was the last time that change happened and you went, yay, until after you're driving on it again, and maybe your life is saved because EMS can get to you, because that's going to be a factor. If not now, real soon, somebody's life is going to get lost because EMS cannot get there fast enough.
If it hasn't been done already.
Correct. Honestly, you don't keep that stat.
Just a couple of things. I know that Chuck William English had said, take from other CIP projects. The problem with that is that some of those CIP projects are taken from certain pots that you can't utilize for something like this. There's a lot of CIP projects in, let's just say, road and drainage, public works. And that is actually its own kind of entity. While if it was sales tax funds, yeah, that went towards it. Yes, you could probably manipulate the money one way or another, but you can't steal from an independent district, like the fire district, the public works, or solid waste, or utilities is a enterprise fund, and they don't call it enterprise fund anymore. But any of those kind of individual pots, because they're run like little tiny businesses, you can't take from their CIPs. So that leaves you with just the CIPs that are in the general fund. The CIPs in the general fund are very minimal. And those CIPs are there for a reason. I know that the mayor wanted to take the whole $9 million from Atwater, phase 4, for our expansion of creating another Morgan Center on the East End. I have to tell you that in all the years since 2000, and I would say 2004 is probably when that East End started developing out, when we were getting that real boom, and we were having all those new houses being built out there. The number one complaint is, why don't we have the same amenities that are being planned for the heart of Northport? We're the ones bringing in the tax dollars. We're the ones with the brand new homes. You don't have an excuse. You just don't. So that's when we started the Atwater Park. That's when we started the baseball fields over there, and we had created the plans to get fire department over there. And part of this phase 4 Atwater was also supposed to create a substation for the city of Northport City Hall. So you could then in turn go pay your water bill there. You could also hold city hall meetings there, so that people who are not who are so far away, because let's face it, it takes sometimes 40 minutes to get over there, especially with price. So they feel disenfranchised. They're more connected to Port Charlotte than they are to their own city. And how do you prevent that from happening? You have to create this unique, this community. The only way to create a community is to put a community function there. And that's why you need something like the Morgan Community Center. And that was the whole point of having that there. So while I appreciate, we don't need it right now. No, we need it, because the longer we wait, the more disenfranchised those in the East End are going to become, just like we have on the other side, West Villages. The more we wait, the more obstacles it's going to create in this city. And there's one thing I've learned over the years: you have to create a unified city in order for it to be healthy.
And I'm glad you brought that point up, because I want to step back just for a second, because the key to what you just said is through your years. I want you just real quickly, for anyone who doesn't really know who you are, tell why you have this experience. And really start back in 04, because you were part of 04.
I was in the year 1997. I opened myself and my husband at the time had opened a restaurant, mom and pop restaurant here in the city of Northport. And it's funny because I was graduated Venice High School, raised in South Venice, and that whole stepchild thing was really pertinent back in the 80s, 90s. So, when someone had told us, well, if you're going to open up a pizza place, you might as well do it in Northport. It's like booming. And we're like, Northport? Why Northport? Long story short, open up a business. It is doing phenomenal. But it doesn't take long to figure out that there are some things that need to change. One, a lot of the children in the area had very limited parental support. Very limited. A lot of drugs in the area. A lot of activity that was unacceptable.
Yep.
The other problem is that the city commission itself, while our average median age at the time was 36, it was pretty much an average of the 70s that were on this commission. So there was very few things being addressed that actually represented the average median age at the time. And so the commission then decided they were going to try and prevent the businesses from putting anything up as far as posters or even papers in their windows. And I lost it. And told them when they could pay my rent on my business building, they could tell me what to put on my window, because I was very much involved in Kiwanis and the Chamber of Commerce. We won Chamber of Commerce Business Person of the Year. There was no way they were telling me what to do. That's kind of been a thing in my life, I think. But anyways, and then the drugs. I could not get the police chief to really take it seriously about some of these kids and the absolute horrid conditions that they were in. All of that together, some very wise newspaper reporter who was 2 doors down from our restaurant, whose husband happens to be on the commission right now, said to me, "Why can't you just become the boss and change these things?" And I went, huh? So 2001, I ran. 2002, I was appointed or elected, and I was a commissioner from 2002 all the way up until 2010. Then I left. My grandmother was very ill. She had Alzheimer's, dementia. I went up to Venice for a while, helped take care of her, and kind of started a new life, a new chapter. I was still involved. Don't get me wrong. I was on the Sarasota County Planning and Zoning or Planning Commission, and I was still involved in the community. But in 2014, things were happening in the commission in the city that were just kind of jaw-dropping. By 15, I had people from North Sarasota begging me to run for commission again. And so I ran again, and in 2016, I won. In fact, in 2016, the commission at the time went and specifically enacted a referendum so that term limits could have clarified language that you could not serve any more than 2 terms no matter what, which I found hilarious because the Charter Review Board actually offered up something like 20-something suggestions, and that's the only one they put forward to referendum. But the city sued me in order for me to run. The city sued me because they claimed that I didn't have a right, and those of us who've been here for a while knew. So anyways, long story short, I get to run, I win, and serve another 4 years. Now, the charter changed again, clarifying the language. So that's why I'm termed out for real this time. And to be quite honest, society has changed so much. Politics has changed so much. I don't know. A lot of people ask me to run for a variety of offices. I think about it, and then I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with that again. I always tell people back in 2002, when I was elected the first time, I did things and people were mad about those, but I actually did them. 2016 to 2020, they just made stuff up. So that's the difference between then and now. But this is why I have so much knowledge about, and some people just say it's knowledge that's like, you don't even need it. But why I have so much knowledge about what's happened in the past.
Well, and I'm going to say something because I want to take those words you just said, because the value that I see that you bring to my show right now is that you have an in-depth knowledge of the inner workings, how things happen, and you can absolutely clarify things where the working class needs a quick response. They need action. They need quick information that's accurate. I am so done with I'm going to shoot one over the bow, and they're going to duck and they're going to run for cover because they don't want more. People need to grow up, and if you want to talk in this community, you really need to step up your game and have some accuracy. I've invited people on the show that have made statements out there. They don't ever show up. They just want to be the Facebook hidden group that stirs the pot, that is not accurate, that wants to get everybody in an uproar over.
That gives only half the information.
Correct.
Or completely false information. I'll tell you right now, John, that over the last 4 years, which now it's like it was 6 months ago. So, over those last 4 years, I told them all the time, if you think you can do a better job, run for
They'll
office.
run.
You do it. And they never wanted to. No, I don't want to do that. Why would I do that? I can affect more change by being out here. Well, then stop complaining. If you don't know what it's like to sit in this seat, you have no right to actually sit there and demean me, myself, and any other commissioner, for their decisions, because you have no idea what you're talking about. And so, that's it. It's very frustrating.
That's my biggest thing with Facebook right now. I love the fact that Mr. English is on. I love the fact that he comments. I love the fact that the commissioners are able to get on here and have a conversation, have open dialogue. I love the fact that past commissioners like yourself have the. And I don't even want to use courage, but it is courage, because you know what? At the end of the day, you have set yourself up for 12 years of service time that a lot of our community doesn't even know you've served, because they're new here. They don't understand a lot of the politics that are going on. They don't even understand the difference between where they came from and what we have today with 5 commissioners. We don't have a mayor as traditional, and we're trying to teach these things through this show. And really having you part of it, having Peter Bartolotta part of it, having Parks and Rec on, having Public Works on. This is really an engaging time that we as a community have never had in the past, because we now have a voice in WKDW, which wasn't here in 2002, and it wasn't nearly strong, in the past 10 years as it is today. And we're building programs based on what our current population, which is now 42, not 36, really needs to focus on, and get some real quick information that's accurate and can move their conversation in the voting booth, which is really where we need to get people to focus on going. Just because our average age is 42 years old or 42, we need to really be pissed off at our community for not getting out to vote, because that's when things are completely different. Go ahead, Vanessa.
And I'm going to tell you right now that back in 2009, 8-9, you saw how our population was growing, and it really did concern the county. Let's put it that way.
Still does.
And it definitely put us at a place in the state that they listened to us. They finally listened to us. It allowed us to get a lot of state funds that people are not even aware of. Which I hope that'll allow us to get more funds as well for some of these projects we're discussing. Right. But anyways, long story short, the point is that if our residents voted we would have the voting block in the county. Think about that. The
It's powerful.
voting block in the county. That means that this city could have two county commissioners. And then what happens next time they want to take away something that by the Constitution they're required to actually pay for, like parks and recs? And now we, the citizens, have to go and pay that because now we get to pay it twice.
Right. Well,
But our citizens they're not participating, and it just baffles me. But it's not just here.
No, it is not. But we're going to keep lighting the match on the voters block. That's my goal. I want to fire our voters up, and I think having you on gives quick information. And if you're listening on Facebook, please share these videos. You cannot understand, and you will in the future, because we'll be discussing it. The power of the vote means more to Tallahassee than anything in the world. When they start calculating what our voting block does down here, the attention that is paid to us tenfold.
And it's not just Tallahassee; it's locally as well. I mean, you know, we've tried to get a conversation going with Charlotte County, which we used to have on a constant basis. We had an annual meeting with Charlotte County Commission, but after that 2012 time frame, they didn't want to talk to us.
Correct.
Why?
Growth.
Because we don't vote. We mean nothing. We don't have that voting block. They'll talk to the county. They don't need to talk to us. They have the county.
You talk about a way to change our community with this kind of growth. If we could get people to vote with the growth and understand the power that and the reason they really want to be involved in the voting block.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing we could teach. And maybe that's another hot button we can do. But I promised you something, and we're 2 minutes late now because you've got to go to a meeting in Venice.
I'm kind of packing up, but let me just run down one of the most important items on this commission meeting that's coming up, which is on, now I had it all written down, right? Which is this coming Tuesday. It's this coming Tuesday at, I think it's the 10 a.m. Yeah, 10 a.m. June 8th, 10 a.m. One of the things that I hope that people take into consideration is the item 7B. 7B. It is the comprehensive plan draft conservation and coastal zone management element revision. Folks, this has to do with storm surge. It has to do with some other variables, but it will affect you financially. It will affect your insurance. You know this, John. You can speak to that. They want to change land development regulations. Better check it out, because I know that we've gone through heck trying to get some accessory buildings actually put up, which are just basically larger sheds. And we have and I'm talking about our neighborhood, but we have a retention ditch in the back of our neighborhood street, as well as the swales, as well as some additional drainage pipes. So to turn around and ask them to do additional drainage mitigation is asinine. So that just adds to the cost that people do not need, not when it's an accessory unit or building. We're talking about a shed, a garage, Look at those land development regulation changes that they want to see. Another thing, right there. Right there. If you look at that, half those colors that are in, say, the estates area, they're not even on the code. They're not even on the key. If that's supposed to represent what is actually considered storms, that's going to be a big issue for this area.
Yep.
So,
we're out of time, Vanessa. I got to go before I really get canned.
Same here.
All right. So you have a great day. This is John Rawlings with WKDW. Thanking Vanessa Carusone for her special time. And I love you. Have a great drive up in Venice. Talk to you soon. You all have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later. John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now.